Hi, we are here at ATD 2023 in sunny, more or less, San Diego. And this is Paul Zak. Mr. Zak, it's so great to meet you.
So nice to see you, Sophie.
Yeah, Paul has published several books about trust, and he's also a TED speaker. And I've met Paul a couple of years ago at ATD, and it's really a pleasure to finally have this interview together with you, because Paul just published a new book.
I did.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Paul, I know you as the guy from the oxytocin guy, let's say. Can you describe what is oxytocin on one hand, what is pro-social behavior on the other hand, and what's the link between the two?
Okay. So we heard ATD and we see 10,000 people. No one's being murdered. Everyone seems nice to each other. They're cooperating.
Yeah.
That's what human beings do by and large. And in fact, they engage in some pro-social behaviors. They're helping other people. Carry your bag, help you up the stairs. So that investment in relationships is very natural for human beings. And we showed about 20 years ago that when we engage in a request for help, our brain produces this neurochemical oxytocin that motivates us to care for others. So this is the foundation for effective teamwork, for effective communication. Oxytocin does this by increasing our sense of empathy. So not only do I understand cognitively what you are likely to do, I have a sense of why it's important to you. I can share your emotional state, and that's what motivates these pro-social or helping behaviors.
Okay, interesting. Now, in your new book, you use the term immersion. What is immersion?
Immersion is a neurologic state that our research uncovered that seems to capture the value that our brains get from social experiences. So as you know, the brain's a very lazy organ, and it just wants to idle and chill out and do nothing. But when we see this neurologic state immersion, which is driven by oxytocin and dopamine release primarily, the brain's going, wow, this is exciting, this is important. And so that information is stored in the brain in a very particular way that makes it more easily recalled later, and it motivates action. So we discovered immersion by trying to identify the signals in the brain that will predict what people will do after a message or an experience.
Okay, so there is a link between steering behavior then?
There is, and if you can immerse people in an experience, then you can actually influence them.
Okay. Well, I read in one of your articles some interesting stuff about attention and emotional engagement. So if you say that attention and emotional engagement, that they are key to steer and reinforce behavior, what can leaders, people in a leading position, what can they learn and do with these insights? What would you advise them to do?
So the first is to understand that immersion, just like attention and emotional resonance, its components are metabolically costly and therefore scarce. So we have found in now 5 years of research on 50,000 brains that people cannot stay immersed for more than 20 minutes. So we're seeing companies like Accenture now breaking up their training into 20-minute segments and giving people longer breaks to recover. So if I'm asking you to be really immersed in this experience, if it's important to you, I can't overwhelm you. 2 hours is too much. So short and intensive is the first takeaway. The second is, as I said earlier, the brain wants to idle. So if you're going to start something, get people prepared, let them relax a little bit. We call it establishing psychological safety. And then open hot, right? Hey, we're going to do this thing. We got 20 minutes. Let's get on this, right? Get that energy in there. So immersion is a very interesting neurologic state because it's contagious. If I'm excited about what's happening, generally you're going to pick up that excitement, and then we're going to share this immersive experience. So it really means kind of come with your A game every time, but think about modulating the environment so that I'm not overwhelming people. So we often see leaders give talks an hour and a half, and people are checked out by the end, and so it's just not useful.
That's also why TED Talks take,
18 minutes? Exactly.
Check.
They were smart.
Okay, so that's a good tip for leaders. We also have learning professionals in our audience, let's say. What advice would you give them? Learning professionals, I mean learning designers, for example, trainers, facilitators. Do you have some concrete and very low barrier actionable tips for them?
I do. So the first is what I call the 20-20-20 rule.
Okay.
No one talks for more than 20 minutes. And then if you're doing an hour training, switch gears. Now do 20 minutes of, say, table work. And then 20 minutes later, switch gears. Do a debriefing from the tables. We've also found that breaks need to be longer, as I suggested earlier. So 20-20-20 rule, that's easily implementable. The second is, if you want open hot, open with a story. So the most effective way to sustain immersion over a period of time is to have a human scale story with characters I can relate to that have authentic emotions. So if you lead with a story, people now understand contextually what you're talking about, and then you can move into the training. So 100% of the time, lead with a story.
So storytelling is an important skill.
It's a very important skill, and it's harder than it seems, as you know, as a writer. Actually, it takes some crafting. So from a storytelling perspective, rehearse, practice, get feedback, right? I would say measure immersion, but certainly get feedback from people you trust and refine that story and practice it. If I want to deliver it first time out of the gate, great. That doesn't mean it's the first time I've given it. It means the first time I'm giving it publicly. So just like we mentioned TED Talks, I had 10 months to prepare for my TED Talk. I rehearsed, 100 times, easy, with feedback.
Yeah.
That's the important part, feedback.
Feedback. That's a hard one now and then. But we're not going to talk about feedback. Good. Last question.
Yes.
So we are at the conference. It just started, to be honest. So I would typically ask you, what have you seen that was very interesting, but it's just the start. What are you excited about?
Looking at the schedule today, the amount of AI that's feeding into the HR space is really impressive. And increasingly, HR professionals are required to get more and more data. And with that data, becomes an opportunity to apply machine learning to really extract a lot of value out of that. So in my academic lab, we're doing a ton of machine learning to really understand the environments that human beings are in so that we can create environments where they flourish, they can feel satisfied, and they can be productive.
Okay, wow, lots of exciting things to come.
Very much so. Stay tuned.
Yes, we will. And you also stay tuned. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
for taking
Sophie.
your time, and thank you for watching. Bye.